heater! I dare you to hit it!
You'll be sorry.
Boy, a bigger bat. You want the heater? I'll give it to you.
a basketball, maybe they don't hit it.
A swing and a drive to deep right. Clear the deck. Cannonball coming. Left field. It is out of here.
What up? What's good? Baseball and Stitched. We are back. Another great episode for you this week, as always. Starting off the week with Joshua Baez. Not sure if you saw Flax, but 3 home runs and 3 ABs at the big league level to start his career.
I was on the golf course, and I saw the first one. Like a minute after it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, what a first at bat, first pitch. And like a couple holes later, I was just scrolling Twitter, and I was like, that looks like a different home run. And I was like, oh my God, he hit another one. And then we got to the back 9, and I was like, oh, I wonder how Joshua Baez's day is going. I'm like, oh my God, he hit a 3rd home run.
Last one was Oppo Taco, too.
Yeah.
So, like,
I know.
Listen, that's some real pop. But if you don't know who Joshua Baez is, we're going to teach you a little bit about who the Cardinals' number 3 overall prospect is and the debut that he had. Topic number 2, as Flax has alluded to, and we've been talking about the AL wildcard race for one singular spot. The final wildcard spot has 7 teams entrenched in a run. We're going to talk about who each of us believe is going to take home that last wild card spot. And finally, one of my favorite players in baseball. He's had some ups and downs of recent. But we're going to talk a little bit about Ty France and what he's doing in San Diego this year. Another fantastic move by AJ Preller. This is 2 years in a row with non-roster invites to spring training. Preller has hammered a guy who has ended up starting for him throughout the year and is now having, similar to Gavin Sheets last year, a career year. But Flax, we start where we always start. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I got to play golf. I also threw my arm off my body, which was less enjoyable. We unfortunately did not win our semifinal game. So our men's league season is done, but I threw 7 innings, 2 earned runs. I don't even know how many strikeouts. I feel like maybe 6 or 7 strikeouts in there, something like that.
Yeah, the guy who thinks strikeouts are fascist was freezing people left and right this weekend. So
yeah, I had like four Ks looking. So good. It was a solid weekend. Monday hurt more than I'd like to admit, but that's 31 for you.
Yeah, welcome to it. I did get to be on the mound for the first time in a couple of months. Actually felt pretty good.
Yes,
need a workout plan this winter. Flax and I are gonna sit down and talk about that. But as you know, Flax, this week on day of recording is week 5 in a row of Taylor and I hosting Family in Town.
Yeah.
We're very excited to have Family in Town one more time. But let me tell you what, we're ready to be back into what her and I call the bubble after this for at least a week because we kind of need it and we're tired. But we're never skipping out on having a baseball conversation with you on Tuesday morning or whenever you listen. Flax, this week in baseball, we got some fun ones. You get to start because the AL Player of the Week comes from your Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, Pete Alonso, 12 for 22, hit 545 this week, 2 home runs, had an OPS of 1493. We say this every week about every one of these guys, so I might have to retire this phrase after I say it. But seeing beach balls, I don't even think is generous. I think we're underselling how good he's been. But like you said, this is the Pete that everyone knew was going to show up at some point. He's raised his batting average from like 245 to 270 over the last month and a half. It hasn't just been this week. He's been hot for a little while.
Yeah, and he'll more than likely, knock on wood, this is the type of guy too. I'm waiting for that power stretch of his where he just all of a sudden hits 5-6 nukes in a 2-week span. It's something we've always seen from him. Alonso's ability to use both sides of the field with that absolutely stunning raw power. He has been awesome for Baltimore this year. I know it hasn't been steady for most of Baltimore this year, even though they're going to be talked about in this wild card race. Pete Alonso, consistent threat in the middle of that Baltimore order all year long. Flax, Corbin Carroll, NL Player of the Week, 9 for 22, 7 extra base hits, a 1519 OPS. The real question I have for you, because you put this part together, is did he hit a triple?
Yeah, and that was part of the whole conversation around him. is that he now has another season and back-to-back seasons with 15 triples. It's nuts. But he plays so well in that stadium at Chase Field because they got that weird slot down the right field line where he hits the ball and it bangs around, and the gap is huge. So if he gets one into the gap, he's on third, and if he gets one down the right field line, he's on third. And he knows it out of the box now. The fielder knows it out of the box now. So they're fumbling with the ball because they're trying really hard. Everything just works for him. I know we've only got a month and a half left in the season, but I really want to see him get to 20.
Yeah, I think it's very doable too, right? I mean, Corbin Carroll was built to play in Arizona. I hope people understand that. And it's awesome that we get to see it. Flax, I would have loved to see, and we've talked about this all the time with the Triples Crown, Triple King man himself and Carl Crawford. Can't even imagine what he would have done if he played in Arizona his entire career.
Think about how many triples he hit at like the Trop. It's like not a huge place. It's not a small park, but it's not huge in the gaps.
That's what I'm trying to say. He'd be crazy in Arizona. Flax, in other news, the Padres have officially sold. We have new ownership in San Diego. Tell people a little bit more.
Yeah, so it was announced a while back. I think it was $3.2 billion, which set a new record for the sale of an MLB franchise. It was sold to Jose E. Feliciano and Kwanzaa Jones as majority owners. First black woman, first Puerto Rican to ever own a Major League Baseball team. Sheil Seidler, Peter Seidler's wife, put out a tweet and basically said, this is the direction that, Peter would have wanted the team to go. These two are going to push this team and leave a legacy, which is what Peter wanted. So it sounds like things are moving financially in the right direction for a Padres team that's got plenty of money left to spend with the contracts they've got on the books.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good for everybody involved. I think we've been waiting for this to kind of finalize to begin with. It's nice to know that it's happening, and now we get to see San Diego continue to move forward, thankfully, with what looks to be a baseball team in San Diego, because we all know when ownership changes, that's always a scare. That's what we have for this week in baseball. Flax, let's roll right into topic number one, and that would be the fact that the Cardinals called up by MLB.com their number 3 overall prospect in Joshua Baez. And Baez simply just decided that he could not be contained in game 1 of his MLB career. He hit a home run on the first pitch he saw. He hit a home run in his second at-bat, and then he hit another one in his third at-bat, just for good measure. Wanted to prove to everybody that at that point in time in his life, he was just kind of Thanos, a little bit inevitable. But Flex, I don't know that people know much about who Joshua Baez is outside of this fantastic MLB debut that he had. And I figured, and you figured, that today we would give people a little bit of an understanding of who Joshua Baez is, where he came from, and how he got to here. So we'll start story time here, and I'll take some of the early stuff here. Joshua Baez was born in Boston, but actually lived in the Dominican Republic until he was about 11 years old, and then his family ended up moving back to Boston. It's documented that Baez did a lot of teaching himself English. His work ethic had been something that was talked about since he was very, very young. Flex, he was playing on a 19 and under baseball team at the age of 13.
Have you seen the size of the human being? I would imagine he was the size of the 19-year-olds at 13.
Listen, regardless, that doesn't mean he's physically coordinated like those guys,
for sure.
Right?
I know.
So,
yeah.
like, there's an accomplishment there. It's different when you put 4'7", 13-year-old Ryan out on a field with 19-year-olds. Joshua Baez obviously deserved to be there. He was actually playing for a baseball program, Flax, Next Level Baseball up there, who is affiliated with the MLB Develops program. Absolutely excellent across the board. Baez then ended up going to school at a place called the Dexter School. They've had one other Major League draftee out of this high school, Flax. That would be Johnny Magliozzi. He was a 13th round pick, but frankly, what the Dexter School is known for is the fact that former President John F. Kennedy graduated from that school, which is exactly what you were expecting to hear on the podcast today. Yeah, right. Who? Not sure who that guy is. He was named the 2021 Gatorade Player of the Year and was committed to play at Vanderbilt University. Problem here is, Flax, is when you're that big and you're that good, somebody's going to want you before you can get on to that campus in Nashville, as me and you have talked about in the past. The Cardinals took him in the second round, and it was the second largest bonus they had ever given to a prep player at the time, $2.25 million, only beaten by Jordan Walker the year before in the first round at $2.9 million.
And it's worked out exactly as they expected, right? Jordan Walker crushing balls in the lineup. Joshua Baez crushing balls in the middle of the lineup. Just let him go back to back for the next 5 years, as expected, right?
Look, and if that's what they do, I mean, they look like geniuses, and it's kind of looking like they're geniuses right now, because who was at the top of the step every single home run? Jordan Walker, right? Like,
oh yeah,
they're building a culture there. Chaim Bloom doing a lot with even some pieces that he was not there to initially acquire. Flax, as we kind of move through Baez's career here from 2021 to 2024, we consistently saw a guy who had the body and the raw power that just needed to be pulled out of him. He struggled with what many people of his size and archetype do, Flax. What do those guys normally struggle with?
Swing and miss.
Swing and miss. You got it correct. Baez, through that 21 to 24 time period, sat around a 34 to 35% K rate. We both know, unfortunately, at the higher levels of baseball, that's just simply not sustainable. However, and we're going to want to learn more about why or how this shift entered, but we couldn't find it here and now. In 2025, all of a sudden, Baez's K rate went from 34%, 35% to what is minuscule for him, 20% strikeout rate. So he cut his strikeout rate down in 2025 by 15%. Wow. This turned into a career high in home run season, a career high in extra base season, where he hit 20 home runs, 46 extra base hits, starting to really cement who Joshua Baez was in the Cardinals organization. So here we are, the beginning of 2026. Baez is known. He's moving the right direction. He's moved up the ranks into the AA level. Baez comes out in 2026, Flax, and does some fantastic things. Prior to getting called up in 103 minor league games, Joshua Baez hits 34 minor league home runs. I'm going to say that again. In 103 games, Joshua Baez hits 34 home runs. That's a third. 1 out of every 3 games, Joshua Baez was leaving the yard. That's ridiculous.
And it was like they were all like no doubters. Like he was very rarely leaving the yard in a way that wasn't like, oh yeah, that ball's gone. It's just true raw power that when he barrels the ball up, it just goes.
When we say light tower power, that's what we're talking about with Joshua Baez. And I mean, to be fair to him, he hit one 449 in his MLB debut. He showed it off instantaneously at the big league level. Flax, the most ridiculous number from Baez's minor league year in 2026, he had a .317 ISO. Being somewhere around 250 is elite. He had a 317 ISO. Baez simply forced his way to the major league level, is exactly what happened this year.
And for those who don't know, ISO is basically, how much of your at-bats end up in extra base hits and in damage. When you look at Joshua Baez and you look at the raw numbers from that perspective, he had, do some quick math, 59 of his 105 hits were for extra bases.
Over half.
So that's what ISO, that's how you get a high ISO, is you hit a ton of extra base hits. That's what he does. When he hits the ball extremely hard.
Kid's got something going. We hope to see this the rest of his career, because this now brings us to him forcing his way into the Cardinals lineup, which will be everyday baseball for a guy like Joshua Baez when you're this talented. Games 2 and 3 did not go the same as game 1. Surprise, surprise. After game 1, he's 0 for 6 with 3 Ks. You know what? I'm okay with that. You want to know why, Flax? Because right now, if a guy with this type of power can sit right around 30% strikeout and make enough contact, it's simply not going to matter. There's few people that you can say that for, but when you look at the pop that this kid can produce on a regular basis, just need him to put the ball in play enough.
Well, I mean, listen, we've talked about this for plenty of hitters, right? If every single ball you do put in play, you put in play at exit velocities of 93 and above, and you're generally hitting line drives and hard fly balls, anything between 18 to 28 degrees of launch angle, like you're going to get a lot of extra base hits. I don't care if you're striking out 30% of the time. At some rate, if you're in the middle of my order, I'm not paying you to hit singles. I'm paying you to drive the ball in the gap and over the wall. That's who Joshua Baez is supposed to be in an order that includes J.J. Weatherholt, Mason Wynn, right now Nathan Church, could be Victor Scott, like includes guys whose job is to generally just get on base.
Completely agree. Really what we want you guys to take out of this is Joshua Baez, really nice story, has been excellent. He has been talked about as a guy who's an absolute weight room gym rat with his size, his ability to hit the baseball. This is a guy that I think St. Louis is going to have around in the middle of that lineup for a very long time. Him and Jordan Walker adding protection to that lineup for each other long term. I really, really like what they're cooking up there in St. Louis. And frankly, they were good for 25 years of my life. Them not being good has been kind of weird.
Yeah. It's good to see that they have the core in place. It's really good to see that
too.
And it's really good to see that Chaim Bloom is using that core, because the big frustration for a lot of Red Sox fans was that he was building the core but waited too long to get these guys injected while veterans were in play doing well. And now he has a core. The core is starting to show themselves a little bit at the big league level, and he can continue injecting. They got another one in Jesus Baez that's also coming up and playing extremely well and hitting extremely well, that they got from the Mets, that is going to follow suit in the middle of their order as another 3 true outcomes hitter.
Yeah, and listen, once again, just Chaim Bloom very much so follows the pattern that does not surprise us, which is he's looking for guys who, when they put the ball in play, they put the ball in play extremely hard, and he prefers guys who lift the baseball. I'm not telling anybody anything that's a secret here. Most teams are looking for those two things, but the point being is Chaim has been consistent in like those two metrics, your ability to put the ball in the air and your ability when it's in play for it to be considered hard hit. That's what he's looking for, and he's got a plethora of those guys right now in St. Louis. I'm excited.
That, like, on paper, just like as an aside for baseball fans who aren't like deep into the metrics and the analytics, if you're wondering why teams sign hitters, especially like sign guys off waivers or trade for guys, they generally do 3 things really well. They swing the bat really, really fast. They hit the ball really, really hard. And when they hit the ball, they generally put it in the air. From an analytics perspective, like that's what a lot of teams are generally looking for out of the gates. And then it's a matter of, making sure the guy or teaching the guy how to have a better approach, swing at better pitches. And the more you condense those decision-making parameters, the better off the fast swing, hard hit ball, and ball in the air ends up being from a results perspective.
Yeah, I think those are the 3 bases that teams are looking at for sure at the current moment. And then each team has certain metrics or analytics to look at that they believe they can develop around, is probably the best way for us to put it. I know when we've talked to certain people, it's all about the fact that each team has an understanding of what they believe they can develop well. And when they see it on paper and they see it in the numbers, they recognize that as something that, okay, we can take that, maturate it, and make it so it helps our big league roster at some point in time. Flax, love Joshua Baez. A lot of fun.
Love it. Did I miss it? Did you mention his incredible debut where he hit 3 home runs and became the first guy ever to do so in a debut?
I thought I started with that, but maybe I didn't.
You might have. We also talked about it in the This Week in Baseball, or before This Week in Baseball. If you didn't know, at this point in the show, 20 minutes in, Joshua Baez had an unbelievable debut. And that's how we close up our conversation around Joshua Baez.
All I was going to say is watching his family go nuts in the crowd was awesome.
Dude, he had 30 people there. How
Nuts.
incredible.
They were going nuts. It was party at Joshua's place.
I started thinking to myself, like, how many people do I guarantee know I would have there? And, like, I could probably count, like, a couple of coaches are on the list. Obviously, like, my brothers, their wives, my wife, my brother, my parents, probably some aunts and uncles. 30 comes quick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I could hit 30 people really fast.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time keeping it below 50, I think.
Hey, man. Hit 3 home runs in your first 3 at-bats.
He
See if anyone cares.
definitely paid for those tickets, too. That was definitely not like a...
You know what he ended up being reimbursed for after he hit 3 home runs and 3 at-bats? All of those tickets. Either way, moving right along here. Flax, topic number two.
Oh, let's get into it.
There are 7 teams within 2.5 games of the final AL wildcard spot. And it's August 17th as of recording. This is going to be insanity.
Qualify that all 7 of those teams are currently under 500 as well.
Well, hold on. We weren't going to bash them like that. But, I mean, yes, you are correct. You are correct. They are all under 500. However, they're all fighting for the last wildcard spot. So at the end of the day, under 500, not under 500, it's tight in the AL right now. And this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to sit here real quick, and we're going to talk through each of these teams, maybe talk a little bit about how we feel about each of them, and then we're going to come to a decision on who you think and who I think is going to make that last wild card spot. Flax, I'll run down the list here for everybody, including records, just so everybody knows they're under 500. The Orioles currently hold the final wild card spot. They are a half game in the lead for that wild card spot at 61 and 63 as of coming into recording. The Rangers, a half game back of them at 61 and 64. The Blue Jays, 61 and 65, a game back. Tigers, 60 and 64, a game back. Twins, 60 and 65, a game and a half back. Guardians, 60 and 65, a game and a half back. And finally, the Mariners, 59 and 66, 2.5 games back. Flax, let's start with the easiest question of the day. Which of these teams are you most surprised is even in this discussion? Easy one for me.
Because of the way their season started, I'm going to say, and because of the guys on their team that are not performing up to standard, I'm going to say the Blue Jays. I'm most surprised. Obviously, World Series team last year, have the stuff, but from a starting pitching perspective, Trey Savage has been in and out of the rotation. He was the guy that was expected to kind of lead them. Kevin Gausman, no longer there. Still, had a solid year, but now they can't rely on him as a stable piece in that rotation. Offensively, Vlad still hasn't hit a home run at home this year, which is insane. Ernie Clement, who was setting the world on fire, slowed down really fast. Addison Barger hurt. Nathan Lucas has been middling. A lot of guys that just played out of their mind last year, not playing well this year. The fact that they're still 4 games under but a game out in the midst of probably playing some division games that can help them move the ball forward, I think was probably the most surprising.
I'm going to go with the team that sold everything last year at the deadline and then at the end of the season, which is the Minnesota Twins.
Yes.
The fact that they're even involved in this conversation, and I mean this out of total respect for what that group has done, because it's a very young group. Let's call it what it is. It's a very young group, and a lot of guys who have honestly just struggled to stay healthy and be on the field. They've put something together that I just didn't think they could possibly do. I thought this was easily the bottom feeder of that division, which, by the way, the AL Central, tight like usual, it would seem. Right?
Shocked.
But what we're seeing that entire group do, Josh Bell, what an easy pickup that worked out excellent for them so far. Royce Lewis is starting to be healthy. Byron Buxton has looked like an MVP at times this year. Cody Clemens
Yeah.
Maybe the best 6-hole hitter in baseball? I mean, I don't even know. Some days I don't even know why he's hitting in the 6-hole.
There's two things here, right? Like, we knew Josh Bell was going to get hot in the second half of the season.
Because he always does.
What Josh Bell does.
Because he always does.
The reason they are at where they're at right now is because of Royce Lewis. How many times have we said this team will go as Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, and at the time, Carlos Correa go as long as they can stay on the field? Royce Lewis got sent down in the middle of May to AAA and hit an ungodly amount of home runs in like a 15. I think he hit like 11 bombs in a 15-day stretch.
It was dumb.
And everyone was like, yeah, but it's AAA, it's AAA, it's AAA. And I did a little hitting breakdown, and I said, no, this is a new swing. This is a guy he's figuring it out, and baseball's a game of confidence. He just needed to see the ball well. He just needed to feel better about himself. Since coming back, Royce Lewis, since June 6th, has an 8.8% walk rate, a 23.2% K rate. He's hitting .280. He's got a 361 WOBA, and he's got a 133 WRC plus with 10 home runs.
Yeah,
he's gotten a hit. He's gotten a hit in all but 2 of like his last 18 games.
Kid's back.
They are going as Royce Lewis goes.
And here's the other thing. And again, we're not going to dive too much into this because this was one question, but they've got Captain America hanging out in AAA right now, who's finally healthy as a glass cannon, and Walker Jenkins, 6'3", 210, literally looks like he could play Captain America in an Avengers movie. And oh, by the way, right now at the AAA level, slashing 289, 388, 477, and he's just truly catching that stride. Wait till they plug and play this kid into the lineup. Again, he's very Royce Lewis and Byron Buxton. You don't know if he's going to be there, but he's one of those guys. When he's on the field, he's one of the best players on the field at all points in time. I think what the Twins have done has been relatively shocking. Additionally, too, with injuries in their rotation, the fact that they've done what they've done has been excellent. All right, Flex.
I would venture to say that their injured list rotation is better than their current rotation.
You would be correct.
Their injured list rotation with Mick Abel, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, David Festa.
That's arguably a 1-2-3 for a lot of teams in baseball. Let's be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But Taj Bradley came from the pitching gurus and figured it out.
Whoa.
Which has been awesome. Dean Kramer's been really good coming over from Baltimore.
Dean Kramer's been a top 50 starter in baseball over the last 14 days, people.
I know. Not shocked by it, but Bailey Ober's been Bailey Ober's. Zebby Matthews has been holding it together. Those are middle-of-the-rotation guys that just need to give the offense a chance every day. That's it. And they went and got bullpen arms. That's the other piece, right? They went and got these guys where they got Tommy Nance. They went and got AJ Minter. They went and got Jeff Hoffman, who, by the way, in the second half, and honestly going all the way back to the beginning of July, has been one of the best bullpen arms in baseball. Nobody wants to talk about it, rightfully so. I don't either. But across the board, you don't necessarily have defined roles, but you got a lot of guys who are comfortable pitching in high leverage situations and getting outs when it's needed.
Twins have been good. Surprised they're here is really what that comes down to. Flax, one of the things that we have on here too is strength of schedule left over, because we know for teams this tight, that probably does play a factor in there. In order of difficulty, the Orioles have the toughest schedule of all of these teams. Their opponents, and that's the number I'll give you next here, are currently winning at a 509 clip. The Rangers, a 499 clip. Tigers, 492. Twins, 487. Blue Jays, 479. Mariners, 471. And the Cleveland Guardians, opponents are currently playing 452 baseball as an average number. What does this tell you? And who in that crop is going to be hurt the most by this? Because it's not always the team who has the toughest schedule.
Well, we say the tougher schedule in the breakdown, but that's the breakdown for the rest of the season. You still got a 40-game sprint to go. Well, the one thing that I don't love about the balanced schedule is that you don't always open up the season or close the season against your division. Most times I don't like that. To this year, I kind of like that, because there are going to be games coming down the stretch in September where me as an Orioles fan, I'm going to see this team possibly not have to play some incredibly hard division series against the tougher opponents. The Orioles 2 weeks ago had the hardest strength of schedule coming home, but they are 3 games into a 4-game set against Tampa Bay, finishing that up tonight. They'll get the Yankees and they'll get Tampa Bay again. You get those 10 games off the ledger, all of a sudden they've got the 20th hardest schedule coming in the door. Other teams may not end up in that same situation, getting their easier games out of the way right now. So it doesn't really tell us a lot until we start getting down to like the last 2 weeks of the season. But I have to imagine we'll probably still have 4 or 5 of these teams engaged in this race with that 2 weeks left to go. And we'll probably revisit this in a much shorter segment and kind of wrap back around to where we are. The strength of schedule one's just fun to look at, to say, all right, who's looking out and you know, either fighting to see the forest through the trees or pretty comfortable with what they've got in front of them.
Yeah, Guardians here, I recognize it at the bottom of the totem pole, but I think what's really nice for them, and this is something that I had already been considering too, because I do agree with you that you never know if it's front-loaded, is it end-loaded, is it somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
The Guardians finished with the Athletics, the Red Sox, and the Royals. Due to where the Red Sox are, due to where the Athletics are, due to where the Royals are, I think that 9 to 10 game stretch is probably extremely beneficial for a team that tends to close out seasons extremely well. So yes, the Guardians show the bottom of that totem pole. I also think it's just a benefit because of how this is going to finish at the end of the day. Offensively right now as well, when you look at a team like Cleveland, they're hitting right around top 2 to 4 teams out of this group at the current moment in August. However, the Guardians are pitching as one of the worst teams. That will not continue for Cleveland. One of the things that had to happen for Cleveland is they had to find offense throughout the second half of the season. They always seem to find a way. The pitching is going to find its way back to the mean. I think it really lends itself for Cleveland to potentially make a run here. However, it's like anything else. You can't get too far back. I recognize that there's around 40 games left. 2.5 games can feel insurmountable if it's 2.5 games, 20 games away from now. So a lot of these teams who are sitting at that 1 to 2.5 game mark have to find a way to consistently hold water, because the moment that this starts to run away from you, it's not running, it's sprinting away from you in most of these cases.
You know, we always talk about, you know, how to get yourself back in the race, and you get to the, as long as you're generally within like 4 to 5 games at the trade deadline, you're still in a position where we like to say all you got to do is win a series. You don't have to sweep a series. All of these teams are still in that space of like, I just got to win every series. I don't have to go sweep anybody. I just got to go win 2 or 3 as much as I can. And that's where pitching is really important. Hitting gets you over the hump, and you got to score 4 to 5 runs a game in a stretch like this to really push yourself over the edge. But pitching is so important because you need pitching that's going to keep you in the ball game for the first 5 innings of a game. You can't be chasing down teams 2 or 3 runs, 3 innings into a game, trying to win series. It doesn't work well. And I think that's why you expect a team like Cleveland that has a pitching staff that they have to start to pick up the pace here at the end of August and getting into September. Because they're still close enough in it to just continuously give themselves chances, and they have good offensive players that can turn a corner at any moment and go insane for a 2-week stretch.
I totally agree with you. All right, so let's move ourselves down this line here. Let's kind of get to where we want to get. Give me the 3 teams out of this group of 7 that in 20 games from now, or around half of what's left and available, are still well in this hunt.
I think I'm going to give you 4 teams.
Please.
I'm going to give you Detroit, Baltimore, Toronto, and Cleveland.
I tend to agree with you as well. I think the only one that I might throw out and swap in, and this will surprise a lot of people, is I'm really concerned about Toronto's ability to continue to move the right direction. I think that their pitching staff's a little bit older. I think that they're relying heavily on Shane Bieber and relying heavily on Max Scherzer to consistently give them better starts. We're talking about guys who are absolute elite competitors, but age is a real thing at the end of the day. Wear and tear, 10 plus years as big leaguers, is a real thing. Multiple injuries that have kept them out for long-term periods of time. If Vladimir Guerrero doesn't heal from whatever injury that they've been talking about he's been dealing with all year and start hitting like himself and help propel them consistently as the offensive force he is, I think it's going to be tough for Toronto. I'm actually going to swap in the Tigers there. I think there's a lot of fire under that Tigers team after the way the deadline went. Troy Melton is like walking out here and just showing that he could be an ace long term. Jackson Jobe is going to be fantastic, and many of you may have forgotten about the former first-round pick who came up, had his cup of tea, immediately went down with Tommy John. This could be one of the better or top 15, top 10 right-handed pitchers in baseball within 1 to 2 years from this statement. What else do they have, Flax? They've got a youth movement that is bringing energy to that offense in Detroit on a nightly basis. Riley Green, who propelled them throughout the front half of the season, has kind of hit a little bit of a rut. He's going to come out of that rut. Kerry Carpenter, a.k.a. Kerry Bonds, he might come back a little bit later and actually be available to hit right-handed pitching. And if he could do that for them, that's a spark that they could use at any point in time simply as a strong side platoon. I think Detroit has a lot more gas in the tank than people realize, regardless of trading Mize and Skubal at the deadline.
Yeah, that was my thing behind, and I've talked about this over and over and over again. The top four in your rotation right now are Fromber, Kiner Montero, Jackson Jobe, and Troy Melton. Every team up and down the playoff race in division leaders and wild card race would take those top four. Right now, those guys are fantastic. It's just a matter of whether or not the offense can find some consistency. They'll have a game where they'll go put up 9, and then they'll have 3 in a row where they put up two apiece. And like I said, you got to be scoring 4 to 5 runs a game with pitchers that are going to give you a chance to start winning games consistently.
Completely agree. All right, Flax, let's go ahead and do it. Who takes the final AL wild card?
It's not a good question to ask me.
Okay.
Because
Flax is going to say the Orioles.
I'm going to say the Orioles.
Has to say the Orioles.
Can I let me give a breakdown of why I'm going to say the Orioles. Because it's not just a homer pick. The Orioles rotation, which, knock on wood, stays healthy, because that's what all of this is based on, just got Chris Bassett back into the rotation. He threw really well the other night. He's going to be a stable presence. He's going to eat his innings. Shane Baz, Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, out in front of the rotation, are right now only getting better. Brandon Young's hit a little bit of a slide, but he'll find some level of homeostasis. The bullpen is weird. The bullpen is, again, no defined roles, a little bit of a mixture in the closing area with a couple different guys, but they've got young arms that are fighting for a spot to stay at the big league level and doing a good job of it. Josh Walker, 29 years old, getting his chance, still has an option, really good left-handed reliever. Alex Hoppe just came over in the Taylor Ward trade. Those 100-mile-an-hour sinkers. Grant Wolfram, another lefty, started the year out really hot, has slowed down, starting to get better. Cam Sanders, they traded for him for cash with the Pirates, has been unbelievable in high leverage situations. Across the board, you're looking at a team that is maybe made up of some pieces and parts here and there, but the offense is starting to turn itself around. Tyler O'Neill, since the start of July, has been unbelievable. Pete Alonso, since the start of July, has been one of the best hitters on the planet. Jackson Holliday's hitting 280 against lefties. Kobe Mayo's OPSing 900 against lefties. Gunnar Henderson the last 2 weeks has been really good. Just had a good series at the Trop. Overall, this is a team that feels like offensively is starting to actually hit their stride. I always go back to like the old adage with basketball. Like, you never want to be the team that doesn't miss a shot in the first quarter, because chances are you're going to miss a lot in the fourth. I don't want to be the team that rocks the ball around the yard in April and May. I want to be the team that rocks the ball around the yard in August and September. And it feels like the Orioles starting rotation is going to do exactly what we talked about with the Guardians. They're going to keep them in the ball game every single night. And then the Orioles offense is going to have to show up and score their 5 to 6 runs a game. And if they do that, they're going to win a lot of ball games. And the schedule gets far easier to open up September or at the end of August into September than it is over the next 6 days playing the Yankees and the Rays.
Look, I think that we both know that offense has severely underperformed almost for 2 years now.
Oh my God, yeah.
Better way to put it. And if they come to play, as we know they can, and frankly just stay healthy, right? We've talked about it. Not just the rotation, it's the bats as well. I think we're going to see the Orioles have a chance. I'm gonna take the easiest cop out of all time. The Cleveland Guardians over the last 10 years are 375 and 292 after the All-Star break. I don't care how far back they are. They just win second half. It's ridiculous. It makes honestly, for a team that is offensively challenged 100% of the time, it makes no sense. They are a 562 team in the post All-Star break for the last 10 years. They've had one in the last 10 years. I'm sorry. Yeah. They've had 2 seasons post All-Star break where they weren't an over 500 team.
Just to watch them play
only being a game and a half out, it just feels too easy because the pitching's
just to watch them play five extra super tight low run baseball games come October.
Yep, and here's
except
here's
for 2016.
It's fair. Here's the big key, by the way. Currently in the second half, the Guardians are 8-18. It's not going to continue. But
yeah, levels gotta find
like
water.
This is my point of like,
for sure,
I believe it just regresses back towards the mean. The pitching has not been as good. Gavin Williams is literally holding that team up by a backpack or throwing them all in the damn backpack and willing them across the line right now. Messick, Bybee, Cantillo, that whole group is going to start to play the way they have. Angel Hinoa has been excellent since he's come up. He's played 10 games at the big league level. He's already worth .6 WAR.
We've barely talked about him this year, which is crazy to think about. He's been so good.
Listen, and you know why? Because welcome to how it works in Cleveland. Y'all didn't know who J-Ram was for 5 years. Hanoa is another switch-hitting middle infielder who's undersized, that has really good gap-to-gap pop, that will probably over time match right into over-the-wall pop, because that's how it generally works in Cleveland. It's hard for me not to pick a team that is just this consistently good in the second half at the end of the day. I will say, as a non-homer for the Orioles, because I am a Nats fan, I think the Orioles, and believe it or not, the Tigers are probably the next 2 teams in my line of who I think can really make this type of run. That young spark that is giving the Tigers team energy, plus the fact that I'm sure a lot of people are a little frustrated in that dugout about how the deadline went. Right, it's just what it is. And then at the end of the day, we talked about it. Baltimore has had the team for 2 years. They just have not done it on the field. What happened, Flax?
No, this is the one other thing I was going to say. And I got a piece for the Guardians about why I think it's really something they have that's really important for getting them over this hump. I would say the Blue Jays are probably the only other team in this situation that also has this. Both of those teams have a shutdown back-end bullpen arm. Cade Smith and Louis Varland both are the kind of guys that you can hand the ball to in a one-run game with a man on second base, in a, on the road in the 10th, whatever, that can strike out the world, can shut down a game, give your offense a chance, or just win you a ball game. The Orioles don't have that. The Mariners have Andres Munoz, but he hasn't really been himself this year, right? Texas has Jacob Latz. That doesn't really scare me. Yoendris Gomez in Minnesota, same thing. Not the kind of guy that's going to, have you shaking in your boots. And who's coming out of the back end of the bullpen for the Tigers? Kyle Finnegan and I can't think of his name. Throws fastballs and cutters only and sliders. He's been around forever. Oh my!
How about Kenley Jansen?
Kenley Jansen. Thank you. Goodness gracious. You know what? I posted a video of Kendrys Morales hitting a home run today, and instead of Kenley, I just had the name Kendrys in my head, and I was like, that's not the name. That's not the name. So I think the back-end bullpen arm is going to be a huge, huge piece for both the Blue Jays and the Guardians. But here's the other piece I have for you for the Orioles. Who's that guy in that dugout? Who's that guy in that clubhouse? Where did he come from? What kind of baseball does he know? He knows second-half baseball. Craig Albernaz has been in that Guardians dugout.
Cleveland Guardians.
And he knows second-half baseball. He knows how to get the most from his guys when they're down and out. And he's showing it. All they've been talking about the last 2 weeks is how nobody but him shows up to the field with more energy. And he's giving it to these guys on a really tough road trip that they're on right now. And I think he's going to will them over the line and look at Stephen Vogt and say, the students become the master.
I love it. I hope it happens. I hope it happens.
You
Y'all
and me
been
both.
going through it a little bit in Baltimore, so I hope it happens. I'm going through it worse than you, so I don't hope it that badly, but that's all right. We're having fun in DC this year. Flax, let's get to everybody's favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's my favorite segment. That would be Jackson's bullpen. Jackson, teach us something new.
All right, boys, welcome back to another episode of Jackson's Bullpen. Got a really fun topic today. With all the uncertainty with this offseason, one of the most anticipated offseasons we've seen in baseball in a long time, I feel like it's been really undershadowed about what a free agency class this looks like for baseball this season, especially with everything that's going on with the CBA negotiations. There is a lot of very, very good free agents on the open market this year. I want to look at some of the top pitchers, starters, and relievers on the market for this year. Starting off, we all know Tariq Skubal, unrestricted free agent, how good that guy is. From Flax's Orioles, Trevor Rogers, unrestricted free agent, been one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball past couple seasons.
Shut your mouth.
From the Cubs,
Don't tell people
Shota.
that.
From the Cubs, Shota, and new trade deadline pick Clay Holmes. He has a player option. Shota's unrestricted. Both of those guys on the market. Sandy Alcantara has a $21 million club option. Imagine that gets picked up, but there's a chance it doesn't. Joe Ryan, Minnesota, probably, maybe could have been dealt at the deadline. He's a free agent now, has a mutual option that almost definitely is going to get declined on his part. Sonny Gray, $30 million mutual. Good chance that gets declined. Sonny Gray, sub-3 ERA, been one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball this year. Casey Mize, another guy, unrestricted free agent, sub-3 FIP so far this year. Couple of the best relievers on the market, David Bednar of the Yankees. He has been unbelievable this season. One of the better closers in baseball. Unrestricted free agent. Rocio Iglesias. People thought this guy's career was done like 3 years ago. He is still pitching and still been an effective closer in Atlanta. Ryan Helsley of Baltimore. Pete Fairbanks of Miami. Two experienced closers are also going to hit the open market this year. It just, with all the uncertainty going on in baseball, I feel like just need to take a look at this free agent class. They could be signing in November, or they could be signing in June for all we know with what's about to happen with the strike. But there's a lot of very interesting names right here that can affect baseball heavily once they hit the open market and sign with the team.
All right, I love it. Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
So, and you can throw it up on Spot Track if you need to. I want each of you, and I'll do this as well, if you had the keys to your organization, give me the one name you would get, and we're not playing this game where like all three of us believe our teams are in on Tarek Skubal. That's like the rule here, right?
They're not, because the Dodgers are going to sign him in November.
No, we're going to move on from the Tarek Skubal conversation as fast as we can.
Sure.
So my name for the Nats, and you actually already mentioned them, is I think Casey Mize would be excellent for that rotation. I think he's in an affordable area for what the Nats could do. I would be over the friggin' moon if we brought that arm into our rotation. However, we really probably should go get Raisel Iglesias because we actually need bullpen help. So that's my statement.
I think that the Orioles are going to end up bringing Trevor Rogers back.
I do too.
I think they're going to get him on a 3 or a 4 year deal. I don't think it's going to be crazy money, but it'll be money that if you were Trevor Rogers, you'd be happy to have in your pocket. I think that, unfortunately, the time has kind of passed to where you'd sign an extension. It doesn't seem like those conversations have been had, but the likelihood that they come back to the table. And again, I genuinely think the reason that the conversation hasn't been had is because he's going to go to the open market. There's a CBA that's coming. They're going to wait until after that gets determined to figure out how much they think they are going to actually have to pay a guy like him, and if there's any advantage that they might have in waiting. But Trevor Rogers seems like the most obvious option for Baltimore. And Ryan Helsley is my guess. My guess from a bullpen perspective is that they'll probably pick up his player option pending he seems healthy by the year's end.
For the Cardinals, I was honestly going to say Casey Mize. That was going to be my pick. But I will pivot to a guy I did not bring up, and that is Chris Bubich, who just got traded from the Royals to the Dodgers. This is a guy who, when he has been healthy, has been unbelievable, has not been able to stay healthy. We saw the Cardinals this year bring in a former Dodger who couldn't stay healthy, Dustin May, brought him in on a cheap deal, ended up flipping up the deadline. That ended up being a great deal for the Cardinals. I think a pickup like that would make a lot of sense for the Cardinals to go get a Chris Bubich on a 1-2 year deal, up the AAV a little bit to get him in there since we can afford that a little bit. Bring Bubich in, throw him in the rotation, give him the innings, help him stay healthy. The Cardinals, one thing they've been known for more than anything is being able to keep arms healthy. They've done a really good job of that if you just look at the track record of the past couple of years. So Cardinals, Chris Bubich, 2 years, $30 million right now.
Sure. I like it.
I like that.
And real quick, we've got a lot of teams that need bullpen help right now who have just they've got either a really good offensive core or a really good starting rotation. Raisel Iglesias, Ryan Helsley, Peter Fairbanks, AJ Minter, Blake Trinan, Adrian Morhone, David Bednar, Gregory Soto, Jose Alvarado. I mean, Brian Abreu. There's a lot of arms that are going to be available from a relief perspective that have legitimate back-end experience in the playoffs that are going to be available to teams this offseason. Again, either in November or June, but neither here nor there.
Yeah, the one last name I wanted to bring up, a guy who me and Ryan actually talked about in our trade deadline episode as a name that could have been moved for the Cardinals. That'd be a fun pickup. But that's JT Brubaker, who has quietly been putting together a great season in the Giants bullpen. And I feel like you could sign him for relatively cheap. That would be a fun pickup for the Cardinals, whose bullpen has been borderline unwatchable this year. But just one more name I wanted to bring up.
I mean, I'm running down the potential group of relievers that is going to be available, and it's just so much MLB experience in playoffs and high leverage. It's going to be a fun year for teams that need an arm, man. And there's some guys who are just wild cards because they haven't been healthy. Broussard Gratterall, AJ Puck. Listen, you never know. That's fun.
Yeah, but these are guys that are going to sign at the outset of whatever version of spring training we get for $1 million on the potential upside that, they have a really good year, and those guys will sign for that because it's their opportunity to have, some proof in the pudding to actually get a reasonable 2-year with a player option type deal is my guess.
I don't know, man. I'm giving Hobie Milner 2.5 and getting him on my roster.
I mean, he's going to be healthy, so why not?
You already know it. We like those weird angles. Hold on real quick. Hobie Milner to Colorado with what DePodesta's been doing. Don't be surprised when it happens.
Book it now.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I bet that
August 17th.
Can I bet that on Polymarket?
Can I bet? The only other question I had for you, Jackson, is do you think the Guardians are going to pick up Emmanuel Clase's club option?
I was reading that. I was like, should I bring that up on the podcast right now?
It's crazy.
What do they have
to wait for before they can void that contract?
I think it's all already on. I think it's all already frozen, and I already think they're not paying it if I remember correctly. I think it's already on some level of freeze. For those of you who don't know,
I want to ask that same question about, but I'm not going to ask it.
Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz were caught for gambling and throwing away pitches and betting on the outcome of those pitches, no longer playing Major League Baseball. Jackson, anything else for us today on your bullpen?
No, that's all we got today. I just want to talk about the free agents this year with the interesting offseason we're headed towards. I appreciate y'all having me on, boys. Let's have a good rest of the episode.
All right. That was Jackson's bullpen. I know I learned something. I hope you learned something. Jackson, as always, we appreciate you. Flax, quick topic number 3. I felt like it had to be brought up. I don't know if you remember this, but last year, Gavin Sheets, prior to the year, got non-tendered by the White Sox.
Was this for the
Preller and Co?
You saying I don't know if you remember this? I'm assuming for the listener, not for me.
Yeah, well, of course. I don't know if you remember or the listener remembers, but the White Sox non-tendered Gavin Sheets. The Padres decided to take a chance on him. What now looks like a genius move by AJ Preller is they were able to bring in a guy in Gavin Sheets who won in 2025, had a career year, exploded onto the scene the way many thought he would in Chicago, and is now a stable part of their lineup, by the way, with a little bit of control. Preller, though, this year had another one of those types of moves that I don't think is getting enough talk. And he picked up one of my favorite players who has had a little bit of a roller coaster ride over the last few years in Ty France on a non-roster invite to spring training. France was excellent in spring training, slashing 306, 352, and 510. Now, Flax, as I say that, we both know through talking with guys like Jack Wilson and other big leaguers that spring training is just different, and you can only take spring training numbers so far. However, Ty France didn't start the season as a starter, but now he is the everyday first baseman playing Gold Glove level first base for the Padres, and he is currently slashing 291, 348, 516. He's hit 17 home runs, a 370 WOBA, which is exactly on the mark for what we would consider elite, and a 138 WRC+. He's pacing career highs in every offensive metric outside of on-base percentage, which, by the way, he's giving up some of those points to add some more slug. What a pickup 2 years in a row on non-roster type invites for AJ Preller and Co. France, been there, done that, played in the playoffs. I think this has been excellent for San Diego, and he's provided a heck of a spark for that team, especially over the last 2 months.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So Craig Stammen, Padres manager, decided in the middle, towards the end of July, basically coming out of the All-Star break, hey, Ty France, I'm just going to stick you in the 4-hole consistently every single day, and I want you to go rake. Ty France, since entering the 4-hole consistently on July 19th, slashing 327, 374, 519 with a 385 WOBA and a 148 WRC+. 5 home runs, 17 RBIs, 5 doubles. I mean, not only did AJ Preller bring this guy in, but Craig Stammen leaned on him and leaned into him being a veteran in the dugout, a veteran in the clubhouse, with a lot of veterans that already exist there, and said, hey, do your thing. You're here. You're not fighting for a spot. You are here. This is how we're going to use you. I think what goes missed so many times about the Padres and why we say AJ Preller is among the best leaders of an organization in sports and especially in baseball is imagine how good he already communicates with the media. That isn't any different, or maybe it's not even as good as how well he communicates internally with his players. You think Gavin Sheets last year didn't get to the Padres and know right out of the gate, here's what you need to do to get on the roster or what we're expecting of you? When he made the roster, you think there wasn't a conversation that said, here's the position you're going to play. This is what we expect out of you. You're going to platoon against right-handed pitching. We'll give you some starts against lefties, show what you can do. You get more starts. I guarantee the same conversation came with Ty France. These are guys that are clearly showing up to an organization and not questioning what their everyday role is, and there is a level of comfort that exists in that locker room, in that clubhouse, in that organization, and on the field with that team.
Completely agree. I'm one over the moon for France. Been a big fan of his. I really loved him when he was in Seattle. It's a really hard place to hit. He had 2 excellent seasons for the Mariners before it got a little bit rocky. Flax, one of the things I do want to talk about with France, credit to him, who knows where the changes specifically with the Padres, were they in the offseason, but we're talking about a guy who historically was very well known for this extremely disciplined approach at the plate, which did allow for more walks, right? Less whiff, less K. When you look at his batted ball metrics, he's thrown some of that, keyword some of that a little bit more to the wind in order to generate more hard contact in play and in the air. And what he's showing is that there's a middle ground that many of these guys are trying to thread the needle on within their approach. There is such thing, and we talked about this with a guy like Taylor Ward this year. There is such thing as almost being not aggressive enough. And obviously, we have enough guys who strike out 30% of the time plus where maybe we're too aggressive. France has really threaded that needle this year, and it has turned into his best season yet, where, again, traded off walk rate for a little bit more K, but it added hard hit balls and slug. And it's working extremely well. The other thing that makes France so good, Flax, and there's two pieces of this, is one, France has the highest pull air rate that he's had in about 4 years throughout his career, right? Especially in a place like San Diego, that's always going to play against the ballpark. 13 of 17 home runs for France have come to the pull side this year. Where France is the biggest difference maker, especially because, and this is where I think they know and Stammen knew he could plug him into the middle of the lineup, is France is truly a platoon neutral right-handed hitter. From a career perspective, France has hit 268 against lefties and 264 against righties.
Wow.
This is not a guy that you need a weak, he's not a weak side platoon, right? Like, he can go out there every day and give you similar results regardless of who or what is on the mound from a stuff, arm angle, whatever the perspective is. And you get the 2025 Gold Glove Award winner at first base. And he's looked every bit of that again here in 2026 non-roster invite in spring training. What a play.
His contact rate is at an all-time low this year, but his outside the zone contact rate is also at an all-time low by a ton, by like almost 10%. He's being, I would say, a little bit more strategic with what he's looking for. The amount of pitches he's getting in zone is at a career low. So if that's the case, he shouldn't be swinging as much. First pitch strikes down to a career low, swinging strikes higher. But it tells me he's taking more aggressive swings when he gets his chance.
A swings 100% of the time.
Yep.
Right? Like when he lets it come off his shoulder, it's an A swing every time. And if it goes past him to the catcher, it doesn't matter. You move on to whatever the next pitch is in the next swing. It's been really fantastic to see. We're talking about a 32-year-old France. He's now been in the league for 6 years. I think a season like this is what solidifies a former 34th round pick. He was the 1,017th player selected in the 2015
doesn't even exist
draft.
Anymore.
Exactly. And he's got a chance to solidify himself for another, hopefully, 4 Major League seasons and become a 10-year vet of Major League Baseball after that start. Once again, kudos to what Preller and team did in bringing France in and giving him the opportunity. Kudos to Ty France for continuing to push on this. He's back with the organization that took him. This is a pretty feel-good story, in my opinion.
Yeah, and going back to his A swings every time, 20% of his swings are 75 miles an hour or faster, which is elite bat speed. That is up from last year, a percent. It is up 6%. Sorry, it's up 6% from last year. It's up 8% from his career high since we started tracking this.
I love it. I love it. Ty France is the man. Ty, if you're listening to this,
wave
come
the
hang with us on
flag.
the pod. Just saying.
Wave the flag, baby. Wave the French flag.
Is it? I best say, is it a French flag?
It's a French flag. Ty France.
Yeah. I love it. I had a fantasy baseball team, and Ty France was on it when he was in his run with Seattle. And
naturally,
I believe it was Ty France and his Merry Men was my team name. So got some affinity for the guy. Either way, Flax, Nice stuff today. Any final thoughts for the peeps?
I have two. One thing we did not cover, but is just news that came out today. Ketel Marte on the Diamondbacks got to Boston with the team, did not choose to leave the team hotel at all today, and was put on the restrictive list. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what his motivation was, but that was a decision that he made for himself to not show up to the field today, I guess. My second thing, and I'm trying to find his name, but there's a guy who streamed MVP Baseball 2005 online, attempting to throw a perfect game with Roy Oswalt, and on attempt 1,993, he was able to throw a perfect game. Roy Oswalt snagged a hard comebacker right at him to finish it off. And not only that, he did it at altitude because for some reason he chose to do it at Coors Field, which I don't think enough people are talking about, if I'm going to be honest. So shout out to Jay Lucarelli is his name. Shout out to Jay Lucarelli at Jay Lucarelli Sports on Instagram. Documented the thing. The Major League Baseball tweeted about it. And I think that's awesome.
I have me and a friend of both of ours, Daniel, him and I growing up, we probably logged 3,000 to 5,000 hours on that game.
Was 05 the one with Manny on the cover?
Yeah, dude, it was the greatest one of all time.
Greatest
There's never been a better baseball game, and I will die on that.
Yeah, of all time.
And here's the thing. For anybody who hasn't seen the video yet, in MVP 05, when you hang a pitch, it blatantly, or you mistime a pitch, it blatantly shows where the ball's going to go in the zone to the hitter. If you didn't think he had nerves with 2 outs to go, the final 2 outs both came on what would be considered in that game hung pitches, and they were both roasted at people. I mean, he overcame the nerves, Flax. It was pretty good. I don't know. Kind of makes me want to go do that because that sounds like a ton of fun, if we're being honest with ourselves. I do have that here in Colorado on a GameCube. Just in case.
Oh, hell yeah. The funniest was the Astros commented on MLB's tweet and said the kind of catch that makes you that earns you a gold glove. Roy Oswalt did not have a gold glove in his career, but he was a very, very sure defender. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm like 99% sure the reason Roy Oswalt didn't win was because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at the time he was pitching for the Astros. They were in the National League, a time at which Greg Maddux was winning Gold Gloves like every year, wasn't he?
I don't think anybody else was allowed to win them when Greg pitched.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't that the case? Weren't they pitching at like the same time? And he was an 18.
Well, they were pitching at the same time. I don't remember the Gold Glove history.
He was an 18. He won 18 Gold Gloves, Greg Maddux.
That sounds like Greg Maddux, if we're being honest with ourselves.
And honestly, in 2003, he didn't win it, but it was won by a different Atlanta Braves pitcher.
Okay, don't tell me.
Yeah, there's no way you get this.
Never mind. I'm not even going to try. All right,
who also pitched for Houston, funny enough.
Who was it then?
Mike Hampton.
No, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed Hampton. I do know who he is, though.
Yeah.
All right, Flex. My final thoughts is it has been widely requested from some people I work with that we do a breakdown of what is going on with Paul Skeens. So next week, we will commit to breaking down Paul Skeens.
Okay. My short answer is big body tired. That's my caveman answer. Big body tired.
Big body, very tired.
Just is what it is. I mean, the dude's been a show pony for the last 2.5 years. You think he's not tired?
Not fighting you. Just figured we'd do it. We'll do it for the people. All right. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you. Make sure to share the podcast with your friends and your family. Streaming wherever you ingest podcast content. Apple, YouTube, or Spotify. And of course, come say hi to us on social media, really anywhere where you might find baseball content on socials: X, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube Reels, or YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. Once again, we're around and we're here. But we appreciate all of you for spending your Tuesday morning or whenever you're listening with us. As always, we end where we end. Have a great